I want to share with you a little secret I have. This secret is this amazing skincare line that I've been using now for a year. Now, I am a product queen. It is the one thing I spend money on. I don't spend a lot of money on clothes, but I love products. And I love skincare products because I want my skin to really reflect and showcase how I feel inside. But this is honestly the best product I've ever tried. And I love the fact that it's vegan, it's all natural. You could literally eat it because it's totally organic. Herbal face food. It's the most potent anti-aging, multi-correction, antiviral skincare on the market. It's magic. I can't even describe it. I use a little bit of Serum One a few times a week, and it tightens up my skin. And then it also kind of whitens it a little bit, makes it feel like all the sun damage disappears. But you can go for the Serum 2, which is like the correction, and that goes into the more sun damaged areas. So you're just going to have to try it for yourself. So go to the show notes and hit the link. Lara20 is the code for 20% off herbal face food. I love it. I love it. I want to share it with you all. I'm Lara Hyman, and welcome to Redefining Movement, a LYT podcast designed to investigate all aspects of movement from my background in physical therapy and neuroscience. My mission is to help everyone find freedom through smarter movement patterns and compassion for ourselves and others, so together we can live our most uplifted lives, benefiting all beings. Welcome to the monthly deep dive. This month, we are diving deep into the layers of LYT, specifically the layers of physical therapy and how we have brought physical therapy into the LYT blueprint. I am joined by my beautiful co-host, Kristen Williams.
Hey, Lara. I'm so excited to talk about this.
I know, we're so passionate. I mean, it's wonderful to be physical therapists who've been combined doing this for over 5 decades and who still have such passion, because what people might not know is a lot of physical therapists, like other healthcare practitioners, can get really burnt out and disillusioned by the way the system is set up. And so I think, what we do in LYT is like infusing our physical therapy background in a way that's so proactive and so beneficial that we just keep getting rejuvenated over and over again.
Great. So lucky.
Yeah, we are so lucky. All right. So anyway, most people probably know what physical therapy is, but if you're not sure, physical therapy is also known as physiotherapy, and it is a healthcare profession that really focuses on diagnosing, treating, assessing any kind of physical impairments and pain, that might accompany that. And so when we entered physical therapy school, like what we're taught as the primary goal is to really help enhance and restore the functional ability and quality of life to those people that are suffering from any physical impairments or even bigger disabilities. And there's a lot of techniques to do that. There's a lot of exercises, but some of the key objectives is managing pain, restoring function, improving mobility, strengthening muscles, enhancing balance and coordination, and rehabbing from any injury or even surgeries. And then ultimately, we're just trying to prevent further decline or disability in those settings. And there's lots of ways we treat in a clinical setting. There's modalities that we use. I'm not going to go into all of those, but they're important just to briefly go over, just because you'll see them in our LYT classes. Some manual therapy, like if we do private sessions, we definitely do manual therapy. And KB is going to talk about how she uses manual therapy, and I use myofascial techniques. But we teach therapeutic exercises that are really customized to improve overall function, improve strength and flexibility. There might be other modalities like ultrasound and heat. We don't really use those too much because the most effective thing is the education. And I think that's where physical therapists really shine bright, is that our efforts are to educate people how to take care of themselves, take care of their bodies, so that they are feeling really good for many decades to come. And there's different specializations. I'm going to talk about mine, and then KB is going to talk about hers. Some of the specializations might include orthopedics, that would be KB, and then neurological would be me. But then there's other ones like pediatrics, geriatrics, and sports PT, which KB also has a lot of experience with. So the benefit of PT is that we are helping people enhance their life, enhance their mobility, their function, they're improving their outcome, whether it's athletic performance or just the ability to move through life in a more independent state. And overall, we're trying to help them improve their quality of life. So let me talk a little bit about neuro and how my background in neuro really has informed the LYT blueprint. So neurodevelopmental patterns are something we mention a lot in LYT, and neurodevelopmental patterns, neurodevelopmental refers to the nervous system, particularly the brain. And this is developing from, conception when we're in the womb to adulthood. And it really, it's crucial because these patterns lay down the foundation for our cognitive, motor, emotional, and social abilities. And so there's a real crossover there. So a lot of times when we talk about improving neural wiring or neural mapping, yes, it's improving the function of your body, but it also has a carryover into the way that you manage emotions and your behavior, et cetera. So I just want to put that in there. So first of all, brain development, because I think this is really cool and it's good to know about because again, we reference this a lot in LYT. Brain development starts right after in gestation, and neurogenesis is the formation of new neurons. And it's the most prolific during the second trimester. So shout out to any mamas who are in their second trimester. This is a time the neuron growth is exploding. Billions of neurons are generated, and then they migrate to the destined locations within the brain. And this migration is guided by different signals. So once they're in their particular place, the neurons begin to form what are known as synapses, which are these connections that communicate with each other. When we go into early childhood, the brain continues to undergo like a lot of synaptic production. In fact, it's like overproducing. So in all those stages, we call them the developmental stages where you're learning how to move your head around, get up on, do like a cobra, roll over, and then eventually get into crawling and then get into half kneel, all these developmental stages. Huge amounts of these synaptic production is happening. And we need that because this is where the brain is what's called the most highly plastic stage, which is where you just rapid learning and adaptation are happening. So those early developmental stages are key for producing our neural pathways, the brain-body connection, the way that we are interacting with the world around us, and the way we are moving and managing our body, and within that, all the systems. So it's hugely, hugely important. Now, the neural connections are most benefited by, or like really a necessary part of it is the myelination, because think of this as like I have a cord here. It's the insulation for transmission of electrical signals. So I have a cord that's in my computer. It has this amazing quick signaling. I don't even have to think about it. And it's that myelination that is the insulator. And so that myelination is really important because efficient myelination is essential for, in our body, the coordinated motor skills that we develop, our cognitive function, and then just overall neural communication. Now, in terms of motor development, again, the motor development happens in those developmental patterns that we go through, the developmental sequences we go through. We recreate them in LYT, and there's a reason we do that because it really is following this neurogenesis and where we can start to retrain, rewire reroute, reprogram some less beneficial motor patterns that happen over time when we become less active and we become more kind of stagnant. So the motor development really is where the brain begins to mature, the nervous system begins to mature. We develop these gross motor skills. Gross meaning not icky, but gross is big. Like fine motor skills is with your hands, that comes later. The gross ones are first. We come into crawling, then eventually walking, develop, and then we go into jumping. And all of these not only are increasing the brain activity, but are really developing the large muscle groups, and they're getting stronger and more coordinated. So if you've ever seen a baby toddling, they're a little bit not so coordinated, and then they develop more core control so their feet can be more underneath them. So all of this is happening early on. And we go back to this in LYT because, and this is a principle of my background, which is neurodevelopmental training, which is this idea that we're looking at the body as this integrated whole, and there might be some damage to the brain. So I've worked with people that had some kind of brain trauma, whether it was a stroke, traumatic brain injury, cerebral palsy, or something like that. And we go back to these stages where the brain was really heightened and developing to improve those movements again, and to improve the wiring to the area that has been impaired. So if somebody had a stroke, they might have one side of their body is impaired. And in neurodevelopmental training, we really work on improving the function of that side, not just compensating by putting it on, in a sling or whatnot. And what I saw over my time working with stroke patients while also starting, teaching yoga, is there was an opportunity to bridge these two. Now, some of the things in NDT that we use that we don't necessarily use in the same way in PT is there's a lot of hands-on. So my hands would be on the client that I'm working with, and that's called facilitation. But we do that in LYT because we teach people to do that on themselves. This helps the brain connect to that area more clearly so that neural wiring can be clearer, so that myelination, all of that, the wiring and connection and communication can be more specific and more just more optimal, ideally. And the other thing we work a lot on in NDT is postural control, because improving postural control and balance is so key for overall function, overall mobility, overall big movement patterns, independence. And it also has, again, a huge impact on our overall well-being. It impacts the way we breathe, the way we digest, the way we manage stress. So bringing a lot, not that regular yoga doesn't do that, but we do it in this very, very intentional way in LYT, where we are teaching people how to improve their posture by using their hands, by using different feedback techniques. And through that, slowly changing any kind of adaptations that have been less ideal. You sit at a desk for 7 hours a day, it's probably going to impact your posture. It's probably going to impact your core strength, impact your breathing, all of these things. So bringing a lot of that into LYT has been it's such a game changer for me and for the people that we teach. We of course work on things that other PTs work on, which would be, strengthening and overall flexibility of the tissue. But there might be something, another aspect that from NDT is that if somebody has like that one side hemiplegia, instead of ignoring it, we actually pay extra attention to it in this thing called forced use. And that signals to the brain, I got to pay attention to this. So if I put my right hand, which was weaker, on a surface and I take my left hand away, I'm putting all that weight into this right arm. And so that part of the brain has to wake up. So we are changing the input to the brain to help the output improve as well. We definitely do that a lot in LYT with all of the asymmetric work. And it's very intentional because it's to help balance out. Even if you haven't had a stroke, we have imbalances left and right. And that is huge. So, like I remember when I was teaching and practicing more kind of classical vinyasa, and we always started with the right side, that right side just got stronger and stronger, and the left side was still like a little delayed, not as great balancing. Well, we changed that. I changed that up to start on the left side, knowing that that's kind of that forced use. Like, where can you find these gaps in the way that we've ultimately developed? And by the way, our society for the most part is very right side oriented. And so it's nice to just improve that motor function by improving more of the input into that side that's not used as much. So we start on our left side in LYT, if you've ever wondered about that. And all of this is going into this idea of neural plasticity, which we've talked about before in other episodes, and we've talked about in LYT a lot, which is just the ability of the brain to change itself. You know, sometimes we think of the brain as getting all that input and information early on, and then once you reach 7 or 8, you know, there's nothing else you can change. That would be, you know, a rigid brain. But actually, neuroplasticity has been shown to be present throughout our life. The issue is that after a certain age, after like those childhood years, we go into like a default setting, which might be known as like habitual. And so we have to create triggers for that neuroplasticity to become, you know, more activated, because it's just going to naturally diminish unless we put in those little triggers. And some of the triggers that I learned in NDT are completely applicable in LYT. And that is that we need to, you know, have some novelty. Novelty is a huge trigger for neuroplasticity. If you do the same thing over and over again, you're going into that habitual loop, and your brain isn't inspired to try and, you know, change, rewire, re-encode, or whatever. So you need to have novelty. You need to have curiosity. We'd have a lot of like that curiosity in LYT, like how, I mean, developing our classes, there's so much curiosity and like, what's another way of challenging the scapula stabilizers? What's another way of helping the neck stay more neutral and not be in that forward head? So there's a natural curiosity that we infuse when we're creating it, and then everyone experiences because it is different than daily life activities. Another big trigger for neuroplasticity is learning. We know that from whether you're learning an instrument, learning another language, but learning on the mat. And so is like so beneficial. And what I want to say for people who haven't tried LYT, or maybe tried LYT a little bit and they thought it was too difficult, that signal of challenge and difficulty is neuroplasticity being lit up. So stay with it. It's really, really important. If something is simple, when people like are like, oh, I just like going, you know, when they would do the Bikram series and know everything, like there is no novelty there. There is no learning happening. There's not a lot. There might be a little curiosity, like how is it today versus yesterday, but we have to do more than that to really have that trigger for real neuroplasticity. There's play is a huge part of neuroplasticity. So that's why we do so much play on the mat, whether it's like skipping or getting on our hands and doing handstand hops. We're not doing handstand hops because it's cool. Yeah, it is cool, but that's like one fun aspect, but it's not the reason. It's more of an outcome. The reason we do it is because it's playful, it's different, it's challenging. We don't get on our hands much as adults. Most of us might not have been on our hands for decades. So we need play. So all of those kind of triggers for neuroplasticity that we need in our adult brain, we're doing in LYT. And that's what really this genuine neuroplasticity is, this total change in our body, in our movement, in our brain, in our soul, like our outcome, like how we feel in the world. But we have to work for it. It's not going to come in the same way as it did earlier on when it was just happening and all those neurons were firing and developing their neural pathways. But we can recreate that childlike wonder and curiosity. And that's really what we try and do in LYT. And that's what I started doing when I created it. And I was like, I want to have more fun and not be so serious. Like life is serious. Like let's have more fun and have more play. And so all of that is science and spirit in action. So that's what I have to say about my stuff. I mean, there's much more to say, but I want to hear what KB has to say about lit and PT in her world. As you may already know, not all movement practices are designed equally. In the LYT yoga method, we help you retrain your brain and body to move better for everyday life. Our online platform, the LYT Daily, is designed for easy convenience with a robust offering of class types so you can boost your energy while getting stress relief. When we move better, we feel better. So sign up for our free 1-week trial and see how getting lit can help you feel your best today and for years to come.
I think that was fantastic. And so much of what Lara was talking about with the neuro side is part of what drew me to LYT. I mean, I got into yoga because people were getting injured. And as an orthopedic physical therapist, we have a lot of knowledge when looking at the body through a very biomechanical lens. I know how the joints move. I know what forces are going through it very well. But the way I was treating in the clinic, and I still do add some of that into my classes, into my private sessions, with exercises, it's boring, and so I started, got into LYT and really looked as LYT as a way to put those principles, those exercise principles of an orthopedic physical therapy treatment plan into a fun method. The blueprint is what drew me in. I loved, because that's what I'm doing in physical therapy. When someone comes to an orthopedic physical therapist, we're going to look at you, we're going to assess how you move, and then we're going to basically stretch what's tight, strengthen what's weak, mobilize what's stiff, and stabilize what's not moving well. What we traditionally don't do very well is put it into play into a more holistic either lens that we're looking at or treatment plan. I would say over my 25 years of practicing, I've seen that improve. It used to be it can become very cookie cutterish.
Yeah.
There's really been a lot of change where people are starting to look more at function. People are starting to look more holistically. And what I love about physical therapy, being a PT, was that I did have the knowledge to treat myself, but I loved educating other people how to treat themselves, because in physical therapy, it becomes very much the patient relies upon the physical therapist. And I never wanted to be that, even when I was in PT. So then when I came to the LYT practice and saw, aha, I can still educate people about their body. I can help them treat themselves. Meanwhile, PS, I'm helping myself, because the beauty of whether it's traditional yoga, LYT, is that we are doing a lot of, to Lara's point, forced use stuff. That comes naturally. Anything single leg stance, that's forced use. You're just using one side. Coming onto hands and knees, we're actually using the full body. It's a lot of closed chain work that in physical therapy we do as well. But I have found that I used to look much more narrow of a scope. Someone came to me for a knee. I know so much about the knee that I'm going to look at the knee and I'm going to look at the hip and maybe the ankle. But was I thinking about the posture? No. Was I thinking about the core? A little bit, but not much. And my perspective has changed so much, both from watching how my LYT clients have gotten better, but feeling it in my own body. So if you come to my classes, you would probably notice, I think of all of us, I talk anatomy probably the most. That's how my brain works. I am very mechanical in my thought processes. I like to have fun. I like to play fun music and things like that. I'm also known for that. But the blueprint, what it does is it follows the PT, even the orthopedic principles of neuromuscular re-education. which is we are going to do something in the sequences. Speaking of layering, we're going to do
Yeah.
2 to 3 sequences, and then we're going to add that second layer of the stream where we change it up a bit. So that's the neuroplasticity that Lara's speaking of, that we do in physical therapy, but it's more like a down the road type of thing. So I will have someone come in, I would give them exercises, they would do those for a few weeks, and then I would change it. Well, here we're doing it immediately. So we're getting that benefit. It's like accelerated physical therapy. And so now when I see private clients, and even when I was in clinic full-time or more full-time, I was giving them LYT sequences to do because of the transitions that are required. Those are other things that we didn't do as much in PT. It might be a bird dog, but it's just a bird dog versus, let's do a bird dog into a modified side plank into a, suddenly it's like, whoa, the brain is getting more and more excited and challenged. And that is, to Lara's point, a lot of people do come to LYT and they go, whoa, this is too hard. And I don't know that it's hard so much as it's confusing. Our brain gets confused because we are asking you to layer upon layer upon layer throughout that entire sequence. So you're getting this beautiful perspective from the orthopedic side, which is mechanics. That's the triple S. We're talking about mechanics. We're talking in each and every pose. I was seeing people in traditional yoga when I first started going into these end ranges, and clearly their body should not be there. In fact, I probably spent 50% of a class cringing, and then the other 50% holding my breath, waiting for someone to get hurt, versus coming into the LYT method style where we aren't going into end ranges because we're going into proper mechanics. And that just was like I swear that the heavens open and is what I heard, because, because that's what I've been preaching all the time in clinic. And now I'm seeing it in practice, because that's what we do. You come to us with an injury. We're going to look at how you're doing something. For example, how are you running? What are the forces that are going through your joints? And how can we educate you to move better? And so my favorite thing about LYT is when someone comes to me, they'll write me a DM and they'll say, Kristin, I took your so-and-so class yesterday, and man, my hip was bothering me. Now it doesn't hurt. Or they'll say to me, Kristin, I took your class and you said this. And then I realized when I was sitting at my computer, I was doing exactly what you said. So I did that and it changed and I feel better. How great is that? Because
Amazing.
I will literally, as a physical therapist, have someone coming to me for weeks on end, that it might take months of PT. You can really microwave into a short few weeks, of LYT, because we are combining. I say the biggest combination, Lara, is the neuro and the ortho. You're getting the best of both worlds, and your body is thanking you for it. Because even as a physical therapist, I'm so glad I became a PT, because I am the expert of my own body. But as one of our sayings in LYT is, you don't need the advanced degree to be the expert of your own body. That's what we're teaching you to do. I'm so glad that I know that. But man, it makes me sad that not everybody else knows that.
Yeah.
I
I feel,
use each and
somebody,
every class,
yeah.
right? That opportunity to help people become their own expert.
Someone wrote me just the other day, and it should be one of our new taglines. It's like, I feel like you gave me the operational manual for
Amen.
my body. And that is it. I think, again, like everything you just spoke to, the education, physical therapist bringing education into a movement practice like yoga is like, it's like the icing on the cake. It's so beneficial because we are yeah, that's the other thing that you mentioned. It can happen in PT, but it also can happen in yoga, is like you've got to come there and that you've got like the sage on the stage. It's a little less so now, but it still exists. And I'm telling you everything to do and how to feel and blah, blah, blah. And that is not a holistic practice. It's really, it's setting it up like master, and then somebody's like, they're doing whatever the opposite of master is. You're just following them out. And it's like, no. We're on this journey with you. And we just happen to have specialized as our profession to learn about the body. And we're sharing that knowledge because everybody deserves to know that.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you haven't been on the LYT Daily, you absolutely must take advantage of our 7-day free trial. We have a series on there called the Start Here series that we really put on there in response to, feedback that we've received from you all, that, people wanted to really break it down. And so we did just that. We broke it down by body part. Lara does some, I do some, we break it down very physical therapy like. Our teachers love it because it's a great place to go as a resource. Yeah. There are PDFs where we've got the picture, and they're exercises. You've got mobility exercises, you've got stability exercises, you've got them that you can do in stand, you've got them that we do on the floor, and then we put it together in the flow. Which is exactly what I do every time I make up a class. I'm taking exercises basically and then flowing them together. So it becomes fun, right? Because I'm sorry, doing the exercise is like banging yourself over the head with a hammer. But man, when you do that in a flow and then you're moving on, it becomes fun. So check out our Start Here series. Maybe we'll even try to put a link to it. So if you're a LYT Daily member or you do the free trial, that will show you where it is. But you can just also in our on the platform, just in the filter, put in Start Here, boom, it'll pop up for you.
Yeah. And, I started the whole podcast today talking about physical therapy. And I think when you ask somebody on the street, what is physical therapy? They think of going to a physical therapist or going to physical therapy when you have a problem, when you have pain, when you have an injury. And what we really, really believe in, and that is what the LYT Daily platform is that you don't need, you might need to go to PT someday, but probably you can really take care of so many things if you do regular maintenance, regular challenge. Yes, you can be confused, and confusion is good. It grows those neural synapses. Like if you think of like anything that's great for neuroplasticity, it's going to be confusing at times, whether it's a foreign language or piano. Your brain is doing multiple things at once, and that's what we're doing on the mat. So when you go to the LYT Daily, if you find that confusion, pick something that's slower or slow it down. We have these little notches on the corner. They look like little dials, and you just can slow down the speed. We have people that do that. They're like, I love the complexity of that class, but I just need it to go a little bit slower to process it. So just know that our intention is really to have this be the daily prescription you need to feel your best and feel lit up in life. And we're just so excited to be on this journey with you. So if you haven't already, check out our platform and know that, as always, we're pulling for you. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Redefining Movement. If you like what you've heard, please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Feel free to leave us a rating and review or share with someone you know. Check us out at www.lytmethod.com.